Hello, Cleveland, and welcome back once again to another edition of the Dogland Podcast. I am your host, Jackson McCurry, and rolling with me as usual is Anthony Jokey. Anthony, what's going on, man?
Uh, a lot is going on because football is back. We are 3 days away from the first Browns game, and we have the first NFL game of the season tonight between the Rams and the Bills. So it's a good time. It's a very good time.
Oh, for sure. I mean, college football kicked into high gear last week, and now, the NFL season's kicking off. Brown season kicks off in 3 days, like you mentioned. So we are definitely ready for it. And obviously, we know this is a big game this week to kick off the season with the Browns and the Panthers matchup. We definitely know like the storylines building up to this one for sure between both teams. But definitely looking forward to having NFL football back. And I mean, if tonight's game is any uh impact on what the season's going to be like, this is definitely going to be another great NFL season.
Yeah, I mean, if this weekend is like the college weekend last weekend, because there were a ton of tremendous games, and not to mention like Florida State, LSU to kind of close out the week was amazing. So
Yeah,
Um, if the NFL season is like this opening college weekend, then we're absolutely in for a treat this year.
for sure. And we had meant to do another episode earlier this week, but timing just did not allow it. But we wanted to do a AFC North preview and then give our predictions, but obviously we couldn't. So what we're gonna do before we jump into the game preview is we're gonna give our playoff predictions, what the 7 teams we think from each conference are gonna make the playoffs, and then the Super Bowl prediction. So Anthony, I'm gonna give you the floor. You go ahead and give our listeners who you think is going to the playoffs, and then who ultimately wins the Super Bowl this year.
All right, well, I'll do the NFC first for just a touch of suspense, since we're kicking off the podcast with this. But for the NFC, I have the Cowboys, the Packers, the Buccaneers, and the Rams winning their divisions. I have the 49ers, the Cardinals, and the Vikings making it to the wild card. In the NFC Championship game, I have the Packers and the Buccaneers, a tremendous Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady face off to go to the Super Bowl. And ultimately, I have the Green Bay Packers going to the Super Bowl. In the AFC, for the division winners, the Buffalo Bills, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Indianapolis Colts, and the LA Chargers. And the wild card teams, I have the Dolphins, the Chiefs, and the Broncos. Uh, for the AFC title game, I have Bills and Chargers, with the Chargers going to the Super Bowl and beating the Green Bay Packers.
Wow, that's bold. I haven't seen many teams pick the Chargers, but it would not surprise me. They added a ton of talent on the defensive side of the ball. Justin Herbert's entering year 3, and he looked really good last year, nearly an MVP level. So it would not shock me if they made it, but that division is going to be so tough.
It
Um,
is. It's a very competitive division, and I had a hard time not picking like all 4 teams to go to the playoffs for that division.
yeah, I'm right there with you. I'll go ahead and start with the AFC. I have the Bills winning the East, the Baltimore Ravens winning the North, the Indianapolis Colts winning the South, and the Denver Broncos winning the West. Like you, I just think that division's so tough to pick a winner because all 4 teams could make the playoffs, all 4 teams could win the division. But I'm a Russell Wilson fan, and they've had a lot of talent on that team already. They just needed to find the quarterback, and they ultimately did. So I'm going with the Broncos, but my wild card teams, I loaded up on the West. I think the Chargers and the Chiefs get in, and I added a second AFC North team, and I think Cincinnati gets the final wild card spot. They have a little bit of a drop off from last year, but still get into the playoffs again. The AFC Championship game, I'm going to say it's the Buffalo Bills and I'm going to say the Kansas City Chiefs. We get a rematch of the divisional matchup last year. And the Bills come out on top in the AFC. Going to the NFC, I have the Eagles winning the NFC East, the Green Bay Packers in the North, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the South, and the Los Angeles Rams in the West. The wild card teams for me are the New Orleans Saints, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Dallas Cowboys. In the NFC Championship game, I have Green Bay and I'll say the New Orleans Saints, and Green Bay ultimately winning, which leads to the Super Bowl. And I have the Buffalo Bills finally snapping that long championship-less drought, and the Super Bowl goes back to Buffalo for the first time, and the Buffalo Bills win the Super Bowl over the Green Bay Packers.
I look. There's no doubt that the Bills are certainly maybe almost considered to be the front runner to win it this year. So it certainly would not surprise me. And that offense again is going to be so good. They added a few pieces on the defensive side, especially Von Miller. That's going to help them out. So if they can figure out how to stop people and not allow touchdown drives in less than 20 seconds, then maybe they'll be able to make it this year. So I'm sure our buddy Kevin, who might be listening, just probably cringed at that. But yeah, I think they definitely have a good chance. And look, it's going to be a long, tremendous NFL season, so we'll have to see who's standing when all the dust settles.
Yeah, without a doubt. Like Buffalo is definitely the sexy pick. I know NFL Network, their NFL Game Day crew, it was a clean sweep of the Bills winning the Super Bowl. I even go far to say Josh Allen wins MVP this year. I just think he's gotten better and better each season. It's going to be different with Brian Dable not there, who I think had a big hand in his development, but Josh Allen has all the tools to be one of the elites. He's already one of the elites, but I think he finally takes it to the next level. And like you said, there's so many weapons on both sides of the ball. Buffalo is just primed and ready. Like you said, if they can manage to get over the monsters of the AFC, the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Ravens, etc., which I think they ultimately do. I just think that team's too talented and their quarterback's too talented for them to not be at least in the Super Bowl come February.
And the thing with the AFC is you really want that first round bye because any of the teams that make the playoffs in the AFC can win the Super Bowl. The AFC is that stacked that whether it's the 1 seed or the 7 seed, anybody that gets in certainly has a chance to win it all, I think. And you really have to be on your game from week 1 all the way through week 18 to make sure your team gets that number 1 seed because it's going to go a long way in helping you out.
Without a doubt. Let's go ahead and get to the game preview. This has been, I think, one of the most highly anticipated week 1 matchups since the Browns came back in 99, and we all know why. It's the elephant in the room. Baker Mayfield. We all know what happened during the offseason. We covered it extensively on this podcast through everything that happened after the week 17 matchup against Pittsburgh and how everything just seemed to unravel quickly when it came to Baker and the future of the quarterback position with the Browns. And ultimately, he got traded to Carolina in July. And, it's set up. Everybody knew that, like, Carolina was always the most likely team he goes to. And it just so happened to be the Browns' week 1 opponent. And, everything's been leading up to this week. Baker released a T-shirt saying he was off the leash. We just got an article from Mary Kay Cabot talking about with direct quotes from Myles Garrett talking about his relationship with Baker during their 4 years together on the Browns. And, Anthony, this is building up to something is going to be highly anticipated. It's not a nationally televised game, which I'm absolutely shocked because of the theatrics and the fireworks that could go off on that field on Sunday. But here we are. It's week 1, and we're finally getting to see, Baker Mayfield, albeit on another team, but it's finally the time is now to see if he's really got it going forward in the National Football League.
Yeah, if Deshaun Watson wasn't suspended at all, I feel like this would be one of the Sunday night games to kick off the year, just because of the storylines and the eyeballs that would be on the game on both sides. So yeah, this one is I think one game that a lot of different people have had circled on their calendar. That includes Browns fans, Baker Mayfield, Myles Garrett has had it circled. I think John Johnson has had it circled based on some of the things he said this week. I think both sides are really going to come prepared for this game. I expect Baker to unleash everything that he has and is able to. Um, in this first week to try to go out there and beat his old team. There's no shortage of storylines going into this one, so it's all going to come down to the play on the field. And uh, look, there's a lot of people on both sides, I think, that want to prove a lot of things. I secretly wonder if Andrew Barry and Kevin Stefanski and crew have had this one circled as well, because you know maybe it'll show that they're right about Baker. If they're able to go out there and beat him week one. So I know they don't seem to be those kind of people, at least in the media, but maybe behind the scenes, I'm sure there's that competitive fire to, hope this team, wins week one. And you almost hope, Jack, that the Browns do win this week, because if they don't, and Baker goes out there and throws for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, it's going to make for a long season. I feel, especially until Deshaun Watson comes back. So I just think for everybody, it would be best if the Browns are able to go in there to Carolina on Sunday and come out with a victory.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And you talked about how you think Barry and Stefanski had this circled. I guarantee they did, because they want to justify to not only to themselves but to the Haslams, to the fan base, that they were right, that they didn't think Baker Mayfield was the franchise quarterback going forward. And they took a big gamble trading for Deshaun Watson, guaranteeing him a $230 million contract, and dealing with all the PR nightmare that it's been since the day they traded for him. So yeah, they totally want to justify the move. Now, granted, Deshaun Watson's not there. He's not there for the first 11 weeks, but regardless if it's Deshaun Watson or Jacoby Brissett, they want to prove to everybody that they were right about this. And not only them, but the Haslams want to make sure that this was the right move. But I know that they've got this circled. I know Stefanski and Alex Van Pelt and Joe Woods have probably been game planning for this for weeks, not even months, to make sure that they have the right game plan and play calls down to make sure that they can beat the Carolina Panthers. Because they're not just going against Baker Mayfield, they're going against Carolina, and they want to be the ones, I think, to snap the long drought that it's been, because that's another elephant in the room. The Browns haven't won a season opening game since 2004 against Baltimore. So that's another thing that they want to get off their backs. It's another one of those long streaks that has tortured the franchise since 2004, but since 1999 they've only won one week one opener.
And I wanted to ask you, on top of that, uh, who do you feel there's more pressure on? Because typically, first week of the season across the league, there's really not a lot of pressure on that first game. But when you have both sides here, you have Baker Mayfield on one side, you have his former team that traded him to the Panthers and invested, like you mentioned, all the money into Deshaun Watson. Where do you feel the most pressure lies? Is it on Baker? Is it on the Browns team as a whole to get a win? Who's it on?
I definitely think it's on the Browns, because they have taken so much criticism from the media, from the fan base, for walking away from Baker Mayfield, who was, the best, what people say, the best quarterback since Bernie Kosar. But at the end of the day, that means nothing. Like, it's so funny. Like, there's people, we've seen the chaos going on with AEW this week, and people are like, well, AEW is the best wrestling company, number 2 wrestling company since WCW. Well, that doesn't mean that they're a great wrestling company. It just means that they're the best one to compete against WWE since WCW. That's the direct parallel I make when it's like Baker Mayfield is the best quarterback since Bernie Kosar. That doesn't make him a good quarterback. That just means he was the best one out of the 30 plus or whatever it was since 1999. Like, that's just how I feel about it. But I do think there's pressure on the Browns, because if, say, Baker Mayfield, like you said, goes out, throws for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, the Panthers win, the Browns have egg on their face once again. I ultimately think that, and I don't think this should happen, but I think Stefanski, the seat gets a little warmer for him. I don't want to talk about replacing him because I don't think that's justified just off of one game against Baker Mayfield. But I do think that pressure gets lit even more. Maybe not as much on Andrew Berry, but there will be severe criticism from the national media, maybe even the local media, if Baker Mayfield goes out and balls against the Cleveland Browns and the Panthers ultimately win. And it's only one game and it's only 1 week in the season, but we know how this goes around here, Anthony. Ridiculous things happen, and then it just turns to snowball, and it gets worse and worse as the season goes on.
Yeah, and things can quickly go south because then you have the Jets in week 2, which there's going to be Joe Flacco for that game in a home opener, and then you got the Steelers on Thursday Night Football. So, look, you better build some positive momentum early on in the year, especially if you want a chance at the playoffs. I know both you and I don't think the Browns will make it based on our predictions, but you have to go out there and find positive things early, especially since you're missing your starting quarterback for 2/3 of the season. So this team and everybody else, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of pressure on them to perform very well this Sunday, and hopefully the defense and familiarity with Baker going up against him in practice every day for the last 4 seasons really is able to keep him at bay. Now, it's not only him that you have to keep at bay. They do have a very good running back. They have a younger offensive line and a rookie, left tackle that they're going to have to contend with. And, I think that's going to be their biggest opportunity to do some damage, but they have decent receivers as well. So they have some weapons offensively on the ball. Now, it's different if, say, they go in Sunday and lose a close game, but it's a defensive kind of game. I think things will be a little bit different and they won't be completely chaotic, but you better hope that you go in there and keep things as quiet as possible, because there's a lot of offensive talent that you're going to have to contend with on Sunday. So hopefully the defense is ready to go.
Yeah, let's talk about Carolina, because we really haven't gone in depth about them. Like, we talk about Baker Mayfield, but you look at Carolina, they got a talented offensive personnel group around them. We mentioned Christian McCaffrey, who did get added to the injury report on Thursday with a shin injury, but Matt Rule says it's going to be fine. The wide receiver group has potential. They have DJ Moore, who's been great the last 3 seasons. Robbie Anderson's been a solid number 2, whether it's with the Jets or in Carolina. They added Rashard Higgins. They just traded for Laviska Shenault, and they have Terrace Marshall, who they drafted last year in the 2nd round. You mentioned the offensive line. Iquanu was their 1st-round pick this year in the top 10. They've trying to build a formidable offensive line. They added Michael Jordan and Pat Elflein, 2 former Ohio State Buckeyes. Austin Corbett was one of their big free agent signings, and Taylor Motton's been a decent to solid right tackle throughout his career. So this is going to be no walk in the park for the Browns defense. They're in for a tough matchup, like DJ Moore versus Denzel Ward. DJ Moore versus Denzel Ward is going to be a fun matchup to watch. That is if they really throw the ball a lot. It's supposed to rain and throughout Sunday, so it's definitely going to be an interesting matchup to watch their offense against our defense.
Yeah, and their offensive line has a lot of newer pieces, but Austin Corbett has played much better since he left the Browns when he was out in LA. They do have a couple younger players, like you mentioned, Iquanu and Christensen. So I think if you mentioned it is going to rain, I think that kind of does favor the Browns, but I think it favors the Panthers too, because of Christian McCaffrey and what they're able to do with him running the football as well as catching passes out of the backfield. They have 2 other decent running backs, Donta Foreman and Chuba Hubbard as well. So this offense certainly has a lot of different things that they can throw at you. Now we'll see how they are because it is the first year under Ben McAdoo as their new offensive coordinator. So we'll see what kind of game plan they come into Sunday with. But I think that running the ball should be their main focus, and I think building off the play action is something that they can utilize with Baker. It's going to be the job of Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney to keep Baker inside the pocket so he can't roll out. If this defense can keep Baker inside the pocket and apply, pressure from the outside, I think that's going to be a big win for the Browns because most of Baker's troubles have come with him trying to, be that pocket passer type of quarterback, and if you're able to, force him to throw to beat you, I think that the Browns have a very good shot at winning this game.
Yeah, without a doubt. And if they do decide to run the football, I don't think they're close to the depth that the Browns have at running back, but they have a solid trio of backs. And, McCaffrey's not that guy that you're going to give like 20 to 25 carries per game, at least in my opinion, just because of his durability issues. But the fact that you have Chuba Hubbard and Deontay Foreman behind them, that's got to feel pretty good. So if they do have to run the rock, you had three you have obviously an elite back in McCaffrey, but you have two solid ones behind him in Hubbard and Foreman. So if it comes down to a running the ball situation, I think Carolina could definitely keep themselves in the game by rotating the three backs.
Yeah, and it seems like their strength is going to be maybe running it in the interior with those two guys as opposed to McCaffrey, and the Browns' defensive interior, their defensive tackles seem to be lacking so far. So I think that's definitely something that the Panthers' offense and Ben McAdoo is going to exploit running between the tackles. So hopefully, they could the Browns defensively can do a couple other things, and Joe Woods can help get them into position to help stop that interior run. But once they start to do that, then they can kick things out to Christian McCaffrey in the flats. They don't always have to hand the ball off to him. The way McCaffrey is really effective is doing that kind of extended handoff where you just kind of sling it to him in the flat, and he's able to make people miss and do some damage. So there's a lot of different ways that this Panthers offense can attack a defense, and quarterback play has been their downfall the last few seasons. So ever since Cam Newton left, and I think that if they have some kind of stability there, I'm not sure if Baker's the long-term answer for them or not, but if he's able to, not turn the ball over, which he has done in the past, just take care of the football. There's weapons on this offense to where they can do some good things, just as long as it's not this Sunday.
Yeah, without a doubt. You mentioned the quarterback position's been in flux for them over the last couple of years. Matt Rule's on the hot seat right now, and we'll get to their defense side of the ball in a minute. But Matt Rule's on the hot seat. I didn't think this was the best situation for Baker. They have put some talent around him offensively. They have a great defense, which we'll get to. But like Matt Rule is their head coach. He has not panned out well since they plucked him from Baylor a couple years back. They added Ben McAdoo as an offensive coordinator. Now he had a great track record in Green Bay, but he had Aaron Rodgers, one of the best of all time. Went to New York, didn't have the greatest time there with dealing with, had troubles with Eli Manning, had troubles with Odell Beckham. Now he's going in with another potential dramatic situation with Baker Mayfield. So this is a make or break year for Matt Rule, obviously. If he does not get the Panthers on the right track or show any progress, he went 5-12 last year. I don't remember his record the first year, but it wasn't that great. Obviously, this is a make or break year. You see the betting odds. He's one of the first coaches at the top of the list that could be the first coach fired this year. So this is definitely a big, big year for Matt Rule to try to turn things around in Carolina, because I think they're building something, but the results haven't shown yet. And if they don't have the quarterback position down, which I don't think they have it locked down long term, there could be trouble looming for Matt Rule.
Yeah, and just to wrap up on Baker too, this is a big year for him as well. If he wants to go out there and get get another contract or even an extension from the Panthers, he has to perform very well. And I think him and Matt Rule are definitely going to be tied together this season because the other two options that they brought in for the season, Sam Darnold got hurt and he'll miss a part of the season. Matt Corral will miss the entire year, who they drafted. So it's definitely going to be Matt Rule and Baker Mayfield. It's going to be their show. If things go well, then I think that definitely saves both of their jobs. Now, I'm not sure if that means Baker will stay on the Panthers, but maybe Carolina will be able to get somebody else in there, or they just go with Matt Corral next year. But it's a even though the Panthers gave Matt Rule that big contract to come and coach there, it was like 10 years, wasn't it, or like 8 years, somewhere in there.
It was a pretty big number
that they gave him. So, I know when you give that kind of contract, you're kind of expecting things to take a long while. Now they've built some good things, but now I think it's time for them to really capitalize on some of the things that they have built on this team. They have a decent young defense, which we'll talk about, and there's some things on the offensive side that gets you excited. It's just a quarterback play, and typically the head coach and the quarterback are always tied together. And if your quarterback play is poor, typically the coach isn't far out the door after the quarterback. So I think that with Matt Rule, as long as the quarterback plays well this year, then his job is safe. If not, it could certainly be time to start over in Carolina. And if things don't go well for Carolina this year, they could potentially land, first, second pick. And, there's obviously two very good young quarterbacks, and there's more as well that could be, had in the NFL draft. So that will definitely be attractive based on the kind of roster that they already have in place and, a potential future head coach. So, you just hope that they're able to play well this year, and Rule can stay there even longer.
Yeah, let's go to the defensive side. Carolina's been building up this young defense the last couple of years through the draft. They drafted Brian Burns in the first round in 2019, Derek Brown in 2020. They drafted Yader Gross Matos from Penn State in the second round in 2020. Then in the secondary, they added J.C. Horn last year, Jeremy Chin a couple years ago. They added Xavier Woods through free agency. Dante Jackson's been there for a few years. They picked up C.J. Henderson, who flamed out in Jacksonville, so that just gives more depth in the secondary. But like Shaq Thompson's been one of their leaders for a long time. So this defense has some talent. They were, I think, in the top 10 in yards allowed, but when it came to scoring defense, they weren't that great. 21st in the league last year, giving up 24 points a game. So like this defense has talent. It's just a matter of, can they start to put it all together? Can the offensive side of the ball give them some breathing room to where they can relax? But the talent is definitely there on the defensive side of the ball. And I think the Browns offense could be in for a fight come Sunday.
Yeah, this defense can be tough. I think there's a lot of good pieces here. They I think just have to gel together. I think if it's going to rain on Sunday, it kind of maybe favors them a little bit. But the Browns do have a good running game on the other side. With this defense being young, they obviously have a lot to prove, and it's just kind of the theme for the Panthers. There's so much to prove on both sides of the football, and they just have to do their best to keep the Browns at bay. I know they're going to probably load the box up because they're not going to expect Brissett to throw deep too often. Even if it was nice weather, I don't think they would expect Brissett to, beat them with his arm. So they're going to load a box. They're going to make it tough for the Browns to run the football. I know the Browns do have good running backs, but if they are able to consistently have 8-9 guys in the box and really make the Browns throw it, to beat them, that's going to be their game plan. So hopefully, offensively, the Browns can use play action and do some other things to, get these defenders out to give them some space to run the football. If the Browns are not able to, it's going to be a long day offensively with this defense. So, like you mentioned, there's a lot of good pieces. They brought in some veteran leadership as well. So. This one's not going to be a simple one in terms of moving the football on Sunday. I think it's going to be fairly difficult, especially just with the offense, for the Browns, trying to gel and trying to learn things together with a different quarterback. So I kind of expect a lower scoring game. But this defense that they're going to face on Sunday is not going to be an easy thing to run or throw on.
No, not at all. I mean, last year they were fourth in passing defense, 13th in touchdowns allowed, but running the ball, they were 18th in yards allowed, 18th in rushing touchdowns allowed, and they gave up 4.1 yards a carry. And when you have the deepest running back in the running back room in the league, like the Browns do, I think that bodes well. For Cleveland on Sunday, if they just stick to running the ball, setting up the play action like we think they're going to with Jacoby Brissett, I think this defense has the potential, or the Browns offense has the potential to put some touchdowns on the board come Sunday.
Yeah, if the Browns get the running game going, which I think they're going to try to do for the majority of the season, because that is their strength at the moment. As long as you're able to do that with the 5 different running backs that they have. I know they listed Felton as a receiver on the depth chart they released, but between Chubb and Hunt and Kelly or not Kelly, excuse me, James Ford, Dearness Johnson, and Felton. Jerome Ford, excuse me. What did I say?
You're good. James Ford, but you're
James
good.
Ford. But anyway, with those 5 running backs, they can all run the football well. Most of them could catch out of the backfield too. So if they're able to get the running game going, that's going to bode very well for the Browns offense for the majority of the season. Hopefully they can get on track starting this week.
Yeah, without a doubt. Let's look at the injury report real quick. Now, granted, this is Thursday evening as we're recording, so we don't know the final word on the injury report and everything. Carolina, they don't have many injuries to report. We know we mentioned earlier McCaffrey has the shin injury. Their kicker has a hip injury, but he was a full participant, and then one of their backup tight ends is limited. But the Browns one, as it typically is already extensive, but there's really not much to worry about. I know people were freaking out at the length of it, but you got Clowney, who didn't practice Wednesday with an illness and an elbow injury, but he was a full participant. AJ Green, Ronnie Harrison, Chris Hubbard, Ian Thomas were all full participants. Chase Winovich as well. Greedy Williams didn't practice Thursday, so that's something to watch going into the weekend. And then I think the biggest cause for concern right now, Anthony, is the status of Jack Conklin. He's been limited both days in practice, but all signs are pointing towards he will be good to go Sunday, which means the Browns offensive line will be at full strength. And which is good, especially when you have a new centerpiece in Ethan Posick taking over the center position. So if Conklin goes, I think that bodes well for the Browns running game and also keeping Jacoby Brissett upright as the season kicks off.
Yeah, they really need Conklin out there. Now they did add some insurance this week by signing Joe Haig to a deal. So
and having Chris Hubbard back this season is good too.
They really missed him last year,
for sure.
To be completely honest. So there's definitely some insurance if he isn't able to play. But I still think even if he doesn't, this Browns running game can still get the ball going. Obviously, you want to do your best to keep Jacoby Brissett upright, give him some time to throw. I know this offense relies on getting the ball out quickly to the right guy. So hopefully, he's able to have that quick trigger and is able to get the ball out quickly when needed to. and accurately is also the biggest thing. So, uh, yeah, if this Browns offensive line is whole, obviously that's a positive. If it's not, I still think you're going to be able to manage because the O line is so strong, and you have guys like Batonio and Teller in there that are just so good that they can make up for some of the inefficiencies of the other guys.
For sure.
Just trying to think of the right word there.
No, you're good, man. You're good. Anthony, as we wrap things up, because we've gone into detail about what we think it takes to win, what it's going to take for the Browns to win on Sunday. Go ahead and give your first prediction of the 2022 season. How do you think Sunday's matchup goes, Browns versus Panthers?
I have had a hard time with this because I always have two voices. I have my heart and I have my head. My heart says I really think that the Browns will win this one, and they can do everything they can to be able to hold Carolina at bay. My head says they haven't won an opening week game in so long, and they're facing their old quarterback on the other side who has so much to prove. Against his former team. So I think I'm going to go with my heart on this one. I think the Browns win on Sunday. I think it's going to be a close game. I honestly think that every game that they're going to play in until Deshaun Watson comes back is going to be close. I don't know. I don't think they're going to score a ton of points in these first 11 games. I think it's going to be a lot of lower scoring games. And the defense, I think, is going to be a vital factor in all of that. I think, for these first 11 games, the defense has to play just at a different level, and you hope that they can build on the success that they had in the second half of last season. If they're able to do that, that'll be fantastic. So I think the Browns win this one in a low scoring game. I say maybe it comes down to a Cade York field goal to win it. I'll say the Browns win 16-13.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the Browns win. I think it's really ridiculous. Like some of the stuff I've read this week for the national media, saying like the Browns have gotten worse over the offseason. People saying that, the Panthers are the better team. There's people picking the Panthers to go to the playoffs. Like I think they have a talented team, but it's like people disregarding the Browns. And I feel like some of it is, vitriol for what had happened during the offseason for them, adding Deshaun Watson to the quarterback position. And I get it because people have morals and everything. And, they're going to feel the way they want to feel about that whole situation. I still don't feel the most comfortable about it, but it's what's done is done. The Browns did it for a football aspect at the end of the day. But like, people marking the Browns as underdogs. Granted, I know there's Jacoby Brissett has not lit the world on fire in his 2 years as a starting quarterback, but at the end of the day, it's not just QB versus QB. It's two teams fighting it out. And when I look at the rosters, I still think the Browns are the better football team over the Carolina Panthers. And that's why I think they're going to win. Regardless of the quarterback situation, I look at the talent surrounding him. I look at that defense that was playing at a top 10 level at the end of last year, and I think are going to come back and be maybe even better than they were at the end of last year. And that's why, like, at the end of the day, I think the Browns win this game. I think it's going to be a close game like you expect. I don't think it's going to come down to a field goal, but I do expect it to be a close, low scoring game. I have the Browns winning this one 23-17.
Yeah, hopefully they could start out with a win. Like we talked about, there's a lot of pressure I think on them to win. So if they're able to come out week one and win, that's going to bode very well for the rest of the season in many different aspects. It could help them start out the year 3-0 with their first three games. Um, so I think if they can build some momentum early on, starting this week, uh, you know, maybe some of the negative things that have happened can um, start to fade in the background, and maybe with Brissett, they could do a decent job to start off the year.
For sure. And as we ramp things up, Anthony, what's your overall Browns prediction for this season? Like, what do you think is ultimately going to be their record once we hit January?
Um, I kind of talked about it the last time we talked. I'm still stuck at like 9-8, just missing the playoffs. I think that they'll win most of the games. I think they're supposed to. I don't think it's going to be easy when Watson does come back because of how long he hasn't really played. So it's going to come down to the end of the season. But I ultimately think that they'll have a winning record, but miss the playoffs.
Yeah. Like I looked at the schedule game and I remember back in May when we did the schedule game, I think I had us at 12 wins. And then once we knew Deshaun was suspended 11 games, I started to come down and I did it again last week. And I was like, I still think they can win 11 games. And I'm with you. It's one of those situations where it's my head over my heart. And while like I believe in the talent on this team, I do understand that Jacoby Brissett is a step down from Deshaun Watson. People can argue where he's at when you compare him to Baker Mayfield, and I get it. Like he hasn't lit the world on fire, but I mean he's had his moments. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot interception wise. I know he has a big career number of fumbles, but at the end of the day, I look at the talent on this team. I still think it's really good, but I'm going to temper my expectations as much as I don't want to because I'm a Browns fan and I feel like they're going to be better. I'm going to say they go 8-9. Obviously, I don't have them making the playoffs. I have them just missing it. Obviously, there's going to be a couple games I think could swing either way. But, and like you, when Deshaun Watson comes back, I don't expect him to come back and be like that top 10 or even top 5 quarterback that some people make him out to be, relieve him to be, because I think he's really good. But I also think there's going to be plenty of rust on him. It'll be almost 2 years since he had seen taken a snap in an actual regular season NFL game. I expect that to take a couple weeks to get the rust off. But I just think they're going to be right around where they were last year. I think they were 8-9 last year. I think they stay 8-9 again this year, but who knows? The last time I downplayed a Browns prediction was back in 2020, and ultimately look what happened, Anthony. They went 11-5 and went to the playoffs. So, maybe Jacoby Brissett surprises the NFL world, and the Browns win a couple more games than people expect them to.
Well, even if they do, even if they get to 10 wins, it's still going to be hard to make the playoffs in this conference with
For
10
sure.
wins. I think they'll need at least 11 to have a chance. So I think their ceiling right now is 10. If they get anything above that, honestly, that's just a good season, a great season. So, but I think their cap is 10. I still think that's short for them to make the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. I think, this AFC is really tough, but at the same time, you got two divisions with three potential football playoff teams in each division, meaning the North and the West. They might just slug it out, and you might see a team like Miami sneak in, or shockingly, if like say Houston, if Davis Mills is the real deal and they somehow a team from the South sneaks in, or the Tennessee Titans, like the AFC is really tough this year. And I agree with you. I think like 10 wins, maybe even 9 wins will sneak a team in, just because it's going to be a fight between some of these divisional opponents. Like I think it's going to be a great season. The AFC is as stacked as it's been in a long time, and I'm excited to see how it's all going to shake out.
Yeah, it's going to be a nice season, a long season. Obviously, we'll be here to talk about it every week, and obviously break down the games as much as we can. So hopefully, y'all stick around with us like you have for 5 years now,
Yep.
I think.
It's going into
So
season 6.
going into season 6. So hopefully, y'all continue to stick around with us, and we'll be back. I don't know, Sunday night
Yep.
maybe.
That's the plan.
So after the game, hopefully we have our first victory pod, real victory pod of the season. I know you tried to have one for the one preseason wins. That like the preseason, that doesn't count. So, um, hopefully we're having that on Sunday night, and we could go into the home opener with some positivity against the Jets, and maybe go 2-0. So as long as they can focus this week, go 1-0, and beat the Panthers, I think we'll all be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, look forward to a Sunday night to break down the game, win or loss. Hopefully it's a W, like Anthony mentioned. But as always, you guys can follow Anthony on Twitter at Anthony Jokey. You can follow me on Twitter at Jack McCurry08, and follow the Dogland at the Dogland on both Facebook as well as Twitter. If you like the podcast and you're not subscribed already, whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, make sure you hit the subscribe or follow button, leave us a review. And until next time, Browns fans, as we get on out of here, go Browns.